Sure. Let's see if it's working. I think, does it say it's recording? Okay, I think it's recording. So, and then live transcript. Oh. Okay, that's going now too. All right. I'm going to mute and turn this over.
All right. So everyone, I'm on my laptop actually. But so if everyone can open up that like tutorial that I made, and hopefully everyone has Eclipse installed. But yeah, so the first thing you want to do is actually make sure you're part of like the WHIMC GitHub org. So if you go to WHIMC or github.com/WHIMC, and if you are signed in, then you should be able to see like people. Yes, I think we have everyone for the most part. All right, but so the tutorial that I made is focused about adding the Portals plugin, but this really goes for any plugin that you want to do. So the first thing you'll actually want to do is add an SSH key to your account. I did link a tutorial, but I can quickly go over how to do that. Is everyone on Windows? Is anyone on Mac? Is everyone on Windows?
I think we checked prior, and I think everybody's got access to Windows if they're not using it primarily.
Cool. All right. So if you're on Windows, then open up PowerShell, and you want to do, actually, sorry, let me just open up the dock on my laptop too, just so that I can click stuff. So in this tutorial, it has you run a few commands within your terminal. For generating a new SSH key. Yeah, so this is like the thing that you'll want. So this SSH -keygen and all this extra stuff. As far as I know, you don't actually need all these extra parameters. You can actually just use SSH -keygen. So let's do that.
Did
So
everybody, before Jack gets too far ahead, is everybody caught up to this point? Does everybody have that page and know where Jack is and all that kind of stuff? Hopefully good.
All right,
I see one thumbs up from Matthew. Okay.
So after you click enter, you should just be able to click enter until it's generated. I already have one, so I'm not going to do it, but you should just be able to click enter. It'll ask for like a password and stuff. You don't have to do one. All right. So after you do that, you actually want to get the the password itself or the SSH key itself. So you can list all the files that are within the SSH folder itself. So if you type this command, I'll put it in chat. Oops. One sec. Oh, I typed it. Okay, weird. Sorry, one sec. All right, if you type that command, you should be able to see, it should just be two files at first, just ID_RSA and then ID_RSA.pub. And the .pub file is like your public key. And basically we just want to copy the contents of that. So you can use the cat command to just print stuff that is within the file. So if you type, I'll type it into to chat again. If you type just that, you'll actually see the full contents of the key. But we want to copy it to our clipboard. So let's just copy this thing, this entire string. All right. Is anyone not there yet? Or is anyone having any trouble? So good. All right. So once you actually have that copied to your clipboard, you'll want to go to your GitHub settings. So go to the top right and then go down to settings. From here, you want to go to SSH and GPG keys, new SSH key, and then just paste it in and give it some name. So for me, I have it on my laptop, so I'll just give it a name that works for me. I have to sign in. All right, and then so it's worth noting right now, the like SSO, single sign-on, is disabled on the WHIMC org, but I want to re-enable it. But there's some like things I have to type in. or I have to get like information about. Either way, you'll have to enable it for the WHIMC org once it is enabled, and I'll send a message when that happens. But basically, you just click here, and then WHIMC will be in this list, and you'll just click authorize. All right, so now that you have this, we can get into actually cloning it. So the next part of it is going to the repo itself. So let's just go to the WHIMC org and find it instead of manually typing it in. Oh. They might have already fixed it, actually. I sent an email, so maybe. This is weird. Hold on. Oh. Okay. Hopefully we can continue with that, doing that. Weird. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, just look through this list of repositories that you want to modify. So like I said, we're going to do portals. And so once you're here, this is like all the code. You can actually look at all of it within the browser, you know, just explore stuff, but you can't really modify it. And so to actually pull the code yourself and get it in here, you want to click this code button, like the little download, and then HTTPS will be selected by default, but we want to do SSH instead. And then just copy this link. All right, so now we'll go into Eclipse. You can create a new workspace if you like. I made one for WHIMC, but the default one works fine too. All right. When you first launch it, you'll have like a little welcome page. It'll look a little different than this. This is just blank Eclipse with nothing open. So you want to open like the Git view. So this top right open perspective button, click that and click Git. Take a second to load. And this should actually add a little Git icon next to the Java icon. So you can just click between those. All right, so now we can actually clone the repository. So you want to click this button, clone a Git repository. And I believe since the URL is already copied to your clipboard, it should like paste it in by default. If not, this will all be blank and you can just paste it in and this should all be automatic. So the next part, since you should have like your SSH key already loaded in, I believe Eclipse automatically like finds it. So if you click next, it should be able to properly fetch it. If not, let me know. But so I'll do that. So this catched it, or this caught it, and this is just like the one branch that we have, the master branch. So you can go next, and then you can just finish this up. You can change where it clones it, but the default location is fine. All right, let me just scroll down a little. All right, yeah, so you should notice now that this like portals repository is here on the left side panel. So now if we right click the root folder and go to import projects, it should be able to find that there's an Eclipse project that it can import called portals. So let's click finish. All right, now if we swap back over to the Java view, oh wait, hold on, I closed. All right, yeah. If that ever happens to you where you don't see the side panel, you can go to Window, Show View, and then Package Explorer, like I just did. But you should see that you have a package or a project now. And this is where all the files are, like you saw before, but within Eclipse itself. Your like package structure may look different than mine. And if it does, the top here, click these three little dots and then go to package representation and select hierarchical instead of flat. If you click flat, it'll look like this. Looks kind of weird. The hierarchy view is better in my opinion. All right, so now you actually have like the code in here, and that's all good. So if you want to actually modify anything, pushing to this master branch is disabled, and all of the repositories are automatically set up so that when anything is pushed to the master branch, there's like a download created for it automatically, and like the README gets updated. And that's all done through a pull request. So if you want to modify it yourself, you have to create a new branch. And so you right click on the main root folder, go to team, switch to, and then new branch. And then I think in the tutorial, I just do some new feature. And you'll notice that now we've swapped to a branch called some new feature. And I'll do something in here. So let's just say, oh, we want to, so right now this like,
Add a comment explaining what something does.
sure. All right, I'll explain what this is. So this is just the prefix for all chat messages for the plugin. All right, so here's just a comment that I added. So you'll also notice that there's this little arrow now showing that there's files that are different from what it knows on GitHub. And so now to actually push those changes, you again right click the root folder, go to team and commit. Okay, there's a bunch of these like bin class files. I saw this yesterday too. Don't commit these. You actually shouldn't be able to. I think they're part of the git ignore, but I don't know why they're showing up. I can look more into that later. Either way, the important thing is this messenger.java file, which is what we did modify. And you'll see here that there's a little star next to it, signifying that it is ready to be staged and committed. And so now that it's staged, we can add a git or a commit message. So we'll say adding documentation. Your commit messages should usually be pretty descriptive about like what you're doing, and you should also commit pretty often. Either way, so we added this message. Now you can click commit and push, and you'll get this little dialog. You can basically just preview. Oh.
I think there's an SSO access issue going on right now because I was getting the same error as you were, Jack, when I was trying to go through on the website side.
Okay. Maybe
It seems like they might be
enabled
changing
this.
it.
Oh, maybe not. Okay, I'm not. That should just like work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, but it should just work and say that it pushed successfully to this new branch. It kind of sucks that I can't really show this, but when it does go through and it does work, if you go to the portals plugin again and you click this little button here that shows the different branches, your branch should be listed here. So if that push did go through, it would show some new feature here, just under the master branch. I guess I can show you guys an example of where there is a branch in the Science Tools plugin. So here's a branch of stuff that I've been working on. It looks the exact same, but there are changes to it that the master branch does not have. And the whole point of being on a new branch is that, yeah, the whole point of being on a different branch is that you can like work on your features separate from someone else, and they'll only get merged once you create like a pull request. I could go into that if you guys want, what a pull request is.
Yeah, I would say even if our team here has some experience with this, I think it's good to reiterate because the Ateneo folks might be interested in contributing on it too.
Sure.
And just as a reminder for all the staff that are on it, like your first assignment with this is comment stuff up, because the plugins are not, no offense to Jack, not that well commented. I mean, some are more than others, and so I think like helping to understand, and trying to understand it, commenting it as you go will be a good way to help do that. And also, you're unlikely to break anything uploading comments. So Also, to explain why we're getting this SSO stuff, so we switched. We had a different version of GitHub that we were using prior, and then we migrated over. I actually have not done any changes to the new one, so I'm seeing this for the first time here too. So like this is sort of new to several of us.
Yeah, you can actually see it, I think. Yes, you'll notice it's on like the GitHub dev and it's completely hosted by Illinois. But yeah, this stuff hasn't been touched in a long time. This is mainly just like archived stuff at this point. Yeah, there's still a few repos that have to be moved over, but for the most part, that's just kind of archived. Yeah, I can go over the pull requests though. So I guess since I do have that one branch, this feature ACF branch, I'll just make a pull request for it. It's not done, so I normally wouldn't make a pull request for it. You should only make a pull request once you have like a finished project and you're ready for it to get reviewed to be merged into the main code. But anyway, I'll create new pull request. And so here's where you like decide what's being put into what. So the base branch that we're going to be merging into is just master. And then you can see this little arrow is like what's getting put into it. So for me, it's this feature ACF branch. And it loads a little. So from here, you'll be able to see that here's all the commits that I made. And then here's like all the changes that I made. It's a decent amount. I guess, yeah, like 900 like additions, 260 deletions. Anyway, you'll be able to go through all that, make sure it looks good. And then, oh, I guess it's at the top. You'll click this create pull request button and you can title it. So any command framework, that's what ACF is. The title should just be something that pertains to what you've actually added. And then you can just add a description and more details about what work you actually did. So I'll just create this pull request right now. And it should go. Maybe not. Oh, all right. Well, same thing. It should just work. I think there's an existing pull request in the portal plugin. Yeah. So Peter already made a PR for pull request on the portal plugin. So this is kind of what it'll look like. This is the part that you would type as the title, and then this is the description part that I had. And so the thing about GitHub itself is that it allows us to have like these pull requests where maintainers can like look at the changes that people want to make and make sure that they're all good. So like here we have like discussion about like choice of how we want to approach a certain problem. If you want to see what's actually being changed, you can click on this files changed button. And a lot of what Peter was doing was just adding tons of documentation to the plugin, I believe. Yeah, so you can see like this is all new, and these things themselves are called Java docs, and you basically just added those to like everything, and like small refactorization, stuff like that. But yeah, so this is what a pull request looks like. And I think a good, like if you're not too comfortable with actually modifying code or looking at code yet, I would recommend just making a README. So a README is like the thing that you see at the front of the page, and it's actually created by this readme.md file. And MD stands for Markdown. So this is like a nicely rendered little page with information, but if I look at raw, you'll see, oh, is it gonna, I think it's, hold on, I'll just open it in here. Yeah, I guess it's not gonna load. But you'll see I open this README file in Eclipse, and like this is what it actually looks like. So this is what you're typing. You can look more about Markdown online, but it's just a like formatted text. It's like this turns into this with like nice formatting and stuff. Looks weird in Eclipse, looks better on GitHub. But I think it would be nice if each plugin had a nice like README that documented all the commands, all the permissions, and like a sample config file that goes along with each plugin. Pretty much just like, let's see, oops. Pretty much just like as if the plugin was on the Spigot website, where they also have like documentation. So like this main page, okay, this isn't a great example, but usually they have all the commands, all the permissions, and like a sample config that goes along with it, so that if there's someone that's using the plugin for the first time and isn't familiar with it, then they can just read the README and know exactly what they need to do. I think that's mainly it. Oh, compiling the plugin. Guess this is a pretty.
Jack, before you do the compiling on
yeah.
the README, so try to think about this in terms of the WHIMC server application scenario. So I've been kind of hinting at like the stuff you should pay attention to in the server documentation, but I think we could be redundant about that to an extent of like, what are the typical commands you're issuing with this plugin to get set up with it to use it? Like, so for instance, portals, you're going to define a portal, you're going to define a destination. There's sort of like a checklist of the things you're going to do. Like having a sort of get started, like do this, this, and this. Like the signboard plugin has a good example of like, it's got a million things it can do, but we actually, most of the time you're doing like these three, like that's the kind of thing I think you should have like a getting started little piece on that. So sorry, Jack, go ahead.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think having a like, kind of a quick course on how to quickly use the plugin is great to have on there. So anyway, so the like automatic release thing that I was talking about before, basically you can actually download you can download the plugin from GitHub itself, which is nice, so that if you don't want to like clone all the code and like compile it yourself, you can just download it here. But if you're working on your own additions to the plugin, it's not going to be on here yet, so you'll have to compile it yourself. And you do this by right-clicking the root folder again. You go to Run As, and then Maven Install. And Maven itself is a Java like package manager. And so while this is going down, this pom.xml is basically the config for Maven. There's a lot of stuff here. Don't have to know what a lot of it does. The main thing that you'll be modifying is the version, honestly. So whenever you make like additions, you want to bump this version. So first number is the major version, second number is the minor version, the last number is the patch. So if you're just like fixing a bug or something, you'd usually just bump the patch version. If you are adding a new feature, you'd bump the minor version and then reset patch to 0. And then we really only bump the major version if like the whole plugin itself is like being rewritten. So it doesn't happen too often. It's not super important. Like you can always just ask me what you think it should be changed to. Yeah, the rest of this, if you're curious, you can explore it on your own. Just Google stuff about that. Not too important to know exactly what's happening. Anyway, so now that we actually compiled it, let's find that jar. So again, right click the root of the plugin and then go to show in and system explorer. So this just launches the plugin, or excuse me, launches like where all these contents are in your file explorer. Excuse me, go to portal, go to go to target, and it should be right here. So WHIMC-portals-2.8.3. And actually, so like I was talking about before, let's say we're doing a huge addition, turns into 3.0.0. If I compile it again, run as, Maven install, it should be much quicker now. It was only slow before because it had to download everything. Yep, build success. You'll see that now we have WHIMC portals 3.0.0. And anytime you compile it, it just compiles the jar that contains all the files within the plugin itself. And you're free to delete these whenever, doesn't really matter. Is there anything that anyone's confused about or anyone's having any troubles with anything?
I have 2 warnings. So I set up Eclipse to work on World Painter, which uses Maven. And it has a different arrangement of Java requirements. And I had actually done that before I had set up Eclipse at some point to try to work on our plugins. So check to make sure your Java version is 1.8 and that all things are referenced. And there's like 3 or 4 references to 1.8 at different parts of the project. Make sure all of those are that. And if you ever end up working on World Painter, we're going to maybe do one for the project. It uses a hybrid of 1.8 and 9 or some I don't know, subset of that. And it also uses Maven, which plays in a different way than this. So that also just kind of goes for a general warning. If you've done other projects, best to start with as clean a slate as you can, because you'll get all kinds of weird errors and problems from stuff like that. So,
yeah, going off of that. So you'll notice here that it says the JRE system library is Java SC-1.8. I didn't cover this in this video, but there are plenty of videos on setting up your computer and downloading the necessary like Java things to be able to develop plugins. But anyway, so if you do find that you're not using Java 8, you can go to, so I guess I'll do that again. Right click the root folder, go to properties, and then if you go to Java build path, and then where is it?
libraries.
Oh yeah, libraries, this one right here. If you go to edit, yeah, there should be a drop down of all the different Java versions you have. So I could change this to Java 1.6 and I'll have some issues because I think so there's some stuff in here that doesn't work in Java 8.
I believe there's a setting under compiler too.
I think there
Remember
could
right. It's been a minute since I've done this, but
be. Also, if you don't want to do that, honestly, you should be able to just like stuff like this. In some instances, if you like hover over error messages, it'll allow you to just like change it yourself or automatically change it. It's the same thing. It's just doing it for you. But yeah, does anyone have any questions?
actually, Jack, if nobody has questions, I have a thing I'd like you to add or show.
Sure.
But yeah, sorry. Does anybody have questions about what Jack just went over?
I know it was a lot of information, but yeah, if this is getting recorded,
You can go back and watch the video again, which is hopefully helpful. It's sad that we're getting the connection error.
Yeah.
So, Jack, I was going to reiterate the issue tracker because that's kind of like the other to-do list besides ClickUp. It's like the plugin to do.
Yeah, I'll go over that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see on each plugin that there are issues, they're called. So if we go to the observation displayer and go to this issues tab, you'll see that there's a bunch of things that we want to add or change about the plugin. They all have a priority and then kind of a category that describes what it is. And then some of them have this good first issue. And these are things that I deemed as like easier to implement. So like one of the things for the observation displayer, exporting everything to a CSV file and then like uploading it or something. This is like medium priority and it's just an enhancement, but I didn't think it would be too easy to do, so it's not a starter task. I believe all the plugins have this plugin documentation issue right now. It's medium priority, it's documentation, and it's a good first issue. So I think, yeah, all of them just say the README should have more information about the plugin. I guess this issue is just about the README, but this goes for code documentation as well. You can go around and explore the other plugins though. So like Science Tool has 9 issues. And some of them, so this configure precision of number, never mind. Sorry. But yeah, you'll see plugin documentation. Same thing about the README. Yeah, these are just like things that we want to add to the plugin, and you feel free to add a new issue too. So just a summary of like the issue or of what you want added, and then add some more details here. It's not showing up now, but when you submit the issue, here, I'll just submit it. Okay, I'm not able to do it because of the single sign-on things, but this labels tab, you should be able to modify what like labels are like pertain to it. So you should be able to add that priority label or like documentation, bug enhancement, and then if it's a good first issue. I'm gonna close this. Yes, that's like the issues tab. And yeah, like Jeff said, it's almost like ClickUp, but on GitHub, just kind of keeps track of everything that needs to be done on the plugins. Okay, yeah. GitHub's messing up right now, but it should work later in the future. Oh, there we go. Cool.
So on the note of tasks and priorities, what I think I'd like to do is have the new technical crew start shifting their focus to working on some of these things, just getting comfortable with it, and like trying to, the first issue you all get to solve is the documentation one. And I don't know that, that's sort of never ending, but at the same time, like getting a good start on that. Your homework all for next meeting is, assuming we can get a single sign-on to work right, go add some documentation. Make sure that you're set up on Eclipse and you can pull and push, and add some documentation to your chosen plugin, which, to reiterate, we have Matthew on the location tracker, Emmy on the science tools rewrite, and Peter, you're on a bunch of things now. So whatever one you want to help document, I don't care. So that's the challenge for everybody for next week, is to make sure that it is functional. And then as you run into problems, or if you run into problems or things you don't understand, that's your opportunity to ask Jack for help on what's going on. How does it work?
Yeah, I'd actually recommend first doing just the README, especially if you're not too comfortable with like coding yet. I think the modifying the README is a good place to start. It's also good to get familiar with Markdown. Just like, it's almost a language itself, but it's nice to be able to have these nicely formatted like pages that are written in Markdown. And you'll find that Markdown is used pretty extensively within like programming as a whole. So knowing it is a good thing to know. But yeah, like the first task can definitely be just adding to the README and adding all the stuff that I mentioned before.
If you're feeling bold, I'll give hints of the two things that I've got for Emmy and Peter, or I'm sorry, Emmy and Matthew. Science tools, I want to be able to do atmosphere composition. So that's what's coming down the line. So as you're doing your documentation and thinking about it, like have that in mind. And then for the location tracker, having an engagement measure and or some way of understanding AFK. So like if somebody's not moving, we don't really, it doesn't show that in the visual map, but we can get that by like knowing that their status update is like same position, same position, same position. So just that kind of tells us something of like, oh, they're probably less engaged because they've been sitting there for more than 10 minutes because they probably left the computer. But if they're there for like 3 minutes, it might have been that they were really interested in whatever they were doing. So, it's kind of a threshold. And that's kind of where this stuff gets fun, right? Is it's not just like the mechanics of the plugin of like, how do I optimize this or that? It's like, how do I make it do neat things that help us understand what we're doing? So. Yeah, I don't know. Questions from the crowd here? It's a lot in a very short amount of time. So.
No, it was all good.
Emmy, any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, it's okay. If you're like something that I often have to do is like I'll watch something like this and I'll be like, whoa, hold on, I need to go do this myself, and then I'll kind of get it. And then I later go bother Jack about like, hey, I did an idiot thing. How do I? So don't feel bad if that's you too. Like that's at least where I am. And if you're doing better than that, great. That's computer science education paying off. Peter, you've done already some work on this, and you've done similar projects. Any words of advice or things you run into already that would be worth sharing?
No, Jack did a really good job of summarizing kind of everything. I mean, all of these things that Jack has been mentioning is all individual like skills, and they're going to take a lot of time to develop. And specifically Minecraft related stuff, I think Jack and I have been doing for a while, but all this stuff is also super relevant, like Markdown and Git and managing GitHub and GitLab is another one. I mean, all of them are so related to every single software project. So this is all really good stuff to know about. Yeah. Also, these aren't the only way to do things. I use IntelliJ instead of Eclipse. You can also use GitLab instead of GitHub. You can use like Git Bash or Windows Subsystem Linux instead of PowerShell. Like there's other options to these things, and it's good. Obviously, I don't want to bring in a whole bunch of different mixes, but obviously there's like preferences to these kind of things. So if you're interested in like branching out to different kind of getting the whole vibe of it, you can like research all sorts of stuff.
And I'll actually back that. I ended up using IntelliJ for World Painter because it played way better with the Maven project. Like it was much more plug and play with what they had set up.
Oh yeah, and I use Gradle instead of Maven. That's a weird one. I not many people do that, but I got indoctrinated from that like a while ago and just never switched out.
So many things in this world. There's like a billion ways to do it. So anyway,
Yeah.
start with this one for now, and then get creative.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
great point.
I think, yeah, if you want to use IntelliJ, I know I'm honestly in the minority using Eclipse. I prefer it over IntelliJ, but I know a lot of people prefer IntelliJ. So feel free to use that. I think the process of like importing stuff is pretty similar. If not, you can ask Peter. He's more familiar with it than me. Oh, side note, GitHub isn't working, not because of us. GitHub's just messing up right now. There's tons of reports of it like being out. So we're just on bad
That was gonna be
timing,
my
I
next
guess.
thing, is to ask if that was a U of I SSO thing and contact the whoever the lady is that gave us access to GitHub, or if it's them. So if it's them, then I think it's just like wait till next day you
Yeah.
work on this.
Yeah, it looks like it's just GitHub. I did get an email back though, and it looks like I think you'll just have to re-log in. Or wait.
I mean, I
I'll
just
send more
did
information.
when I was trying to troubleshoot this. I don't know, give it a day.
Yeah. All right.
This is like how demos always go, is that you're like, no matter what, something breaks. It's just the law of tech demos.
hmm All right. Yeah. If there's nothing else to add, I think that's it. Yeah. If you're going through any of this and have trouble, just message me. But again, yeah, there's a lot covered, so it's definitely not expected that you have everything down. A lot of this will just come from messing around yourself, honestly, and just getting familiar with like Git and like Eclipse. But yeah, so if you have any questions, ask me.
Yeah, thank you, Jack, for sharing. And I guess if there's nothing else on this part, I'm going to stop the recording. See if this works. We're good?